Hi there, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. This is the program where you participate with your takes. We select a topic and we kind of lay it out. So we give you our takes, our perspectives, and then we invite you to participate. And the primary way that you can do that is by calling 1-800-585-9396. 1-800-585-9396. And Debbie, it's good to be with you again. Thanks for coming along, as always.
Thank you. Good to be with you as well. This is a very serious topic today, Jerry. I know we were going to cover, but today is the day that we are continuing the discussion. We've actually been having discussions all weekend long about the startling statistics on homeless youth across our country. And this is a time where, dear listeners, if you can stop for a little bit and listen up, because I think we're going to be able to impart some really interesting ways to help and practical ways that we can stop this from continuing to grow across America. Homeless youth is the topic for today.
1-800-585-9396. This is a topic, when you think about homelessness, Debbie, years ago, I know when you and I were younger, it would possibly be one lone gentleman somewhere who was out on the street, kind of the trench coat and pushing the shopping cart around and what have you. We still see a lot of that, but an alarming, as you said, statistic or phenomenon is now you walk along the streets and you just see young people. They've got a sleeping bag, their shoes are off, they're street eating whatever they can scrounge up. It's obvious that they don't have a home to live in. And you look at that, your heart just breaks.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I live in Phoenix, and in Phoenix, we are seeing more and more youth on the street corners. When go up to stoplights and you stop there, and you'll have like maybe less than a minute to look around, and when you decided to want to do this topic, Jerry, I was thinking back a couple months ago when I ran in, and it was very hot in Phoenix. You know, it's always hot in Phoenix, but I was at a stoplight and I looked to my left, and there was he had to have been, I think, maybe 17, 18 years old. And I rolled down my window and I said, "Hon, are you okay? Do you have enough water?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "I like it out here." And that scared me when he said that. I like it out here. Now, obviously, he didn't mean he liked being in the heat. You know, and maybe is there something that we're missing as adults that we're not seeing, why these teens would rather take to the streets and be homeless rather than being in homes or in places where they could be safe?
Well, there are a lot of reasons for that, and we're going to get into this on the program today. Abusive parents, alcoholic, drug parents. There are all kinds of things, physical abuse that young people face. But there is that side of the coin that we're talking about where I think maybe many young people see it as a badge of honor. They kind of gather in their sort of street communities, Debbie, a sense of belonging that maybe they didn't have at home.
That's true. I never thought of that. So maybe that's their community.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really sad, though, to think. I mean, we statistics across the internet, and I went to covenanthouse.org, and they have some nationwide statistics, and it just is frightening to look at these numbers. They were talking about how 20,000, listen to this, unbelievable, 20,000 kids are forced into prostitution by human trafficking each year. 20,000 kids that are on the streets. I mean, that is just, it just makes my heart, as a mom, that just makes my heart break. And this one, Jerry, I can't even believe this statistic. Almost 40% of the homeless in the United States are under the age of 18.
That is staggering. That is staggering. And for you who are tuned in to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie today on EWTN, what is your take on this? Do you have an experience of this in the area where you live? I have been to major cities recently where the problem is out of control, or it would seem to be anyway. Everywhere you go, young people on the streets, not just hanging out during the day playing a Rubik's Cube or something. These are kids who that is their home. Maybe you have personal experience of this with a child who has left your home, run away, said, "I don't want to be here anymore." I'm going to live on the streets. Maybe you yourself went through something like this. 1 800 585 9396. 1 800 585 9396. Debbie and I are going to have some help during this broadcast presenting this very important topic to you.
We do, and we're so blessed to have a couple of experts with us this hour. And the first one is Christina Curso, and Executive Director of First Way Pregnancy Center in Phoenix. And I know firsthand she's a dear friend and a hard worker and really she wants to change what's happening with our youth, especially. And she's in contact across the country with other executive directors and really has a pulse on what's happening around the country, especially with teen pregnancies and with all sorts of youth situations that she encounters. I consider her an expert. I know others do as well. And we're Christine. Christine, are you on with us right now?
I am. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you, Christine. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what you see, and so that we can start to get a better feel for the grasp of this problem.
Well, it is definitely a problem. I'm seeing it from the limited view of pregnancy, obviously from my view. But most of the homeless youth that we find, that even just driving around, I have no problem stopping and talking to them as well on the street corners and things. And most of them do find themselves in pregnancy and need help. And unfortunately, they're either living in parks, as you're mentioning, or what I call couch to couch, which means they're just looking for the next place to stay. And I think that the cause obviously is the breakdown of the family, and that just sounds so general and lofty, but it really is. Their parents are either deceased or in prison, or they started living with an aunt or, an extended family member. Someone's in the family whose focus is elsewhere and not on them. And when I mean couch to couch, I mean, most of the time living in a park, but when they can find a couch, that they definitely will stay on it. Many times we're hearing that they're becoming pregnant because there is a price for a shower and a meal, and that's very unfortunate. But that's the state of how, we're seeing it from the limited view of the pregnancy area.
Christine, Jerry Usher here. Thanks so much for joining us. And when these young people are on the street, we think anyway, and we'd love your thoughts on this, one of the things that they are craving is attention, affirmation, affection. And of course, you mentioned the young girls that find themselves in situations where they're pregnant. Maybe a result of them, a young man might show them what they think is affection or attention or affirmation, and before they know it, they have found themselves in the situation where they're pregnant.
Absolutely. The need of a strong father role model, and I don't just mean father, because many times a father is not possible, even if it's a grandfather, uncle, somebody who's strong, who can love them and provide for them and protect them is absolutely necessary in the younger years of life, especially. And to your point, Debbie, it's not just about places to be safe because, like you mentioned earlier, it's actually knowing love and real, authentic, simple, unconditional love. We actually learn about that from our own fathers, from God the Father. And so I know that they're craving that love. And unfortunately, in the sexualized world that we live in, they're seeking from other male companionship. And so when you share the startling statistics, Debbie, of 20%, or 20,000, find themselves forced into prostitution, mm-hmm. It is startling, but from my perspective, I believe it's really sad.
Yeah. Well, Christine, when you were talking and I just want you to repeat that because I looked over at Jerry and I think he must have seen my eyes fall out of my head. You're saying that the price of a shower is a gal will give over her body for the price of a shower?
Price of a shower or a meal, yeah. It happens a lot when we're listening to them in the pregnancy center view. Listening is definitely a form of loving. And I encourage both of you and all your listeners to truly listen to people who are in need. And when we're talking to young, teenagers who are homeless, a lot of times what we're hearing is this is what they're doing to be able to have a meal or to take a shower. There's nothing more heartbreaking than a young woman standing in front of you saying, this is the reason why I'm pregnant. Oh, and this is where the breakdown of the family, I tell you, is at the root. It takes all the tears back.
Right. Oh, I bet. And we're talking today on Take Two with Christina Curso. She's the executive director of First Way Pregnancy Center in Phoenix. And if you want to share your input on this very serious subject, please call in at 1-800-585-9396. I know, Christine, you got to get going because you've got a lot of work to do. We just want to have you leave us with maybe some practical advice we can do today. What can we do today? Obviously, prayer. We know that. We have to pray to get these teens off, but what could we actually take action and do?
Well, I would encourage everyone to pay attention in your community and keep your eyes open for the youth that are at risk, and listen to them. I love this show, Take Two, because, the take one would be let an institution take care of it. We need to take a second look at that and say, how do we take care of this? And Mother Teresa often reminded us that we do what love requires. So as we're listening to a young person who is homeless, we need to stop and listen to them, pray, seek resources, because God will provide. He's normally going to provide through you and me. And I don't mean bringing them into our home, but there's many other options out there. So the number one thing I think is that we need to take that second approach and listen to them and actually build a rapport and relationship with them to help.
Oh, and we will, Christine. You can count on us. We've got great listeners. And Christine, thank you so much. God bless you for taking the time with us on Take Two. And also, God bless your work. Know that prayers are with you to give you the strength to do the great work you're doing right in the heart of Phoenix. So thanks for being with us, Christine.
Thank you, Debbie and Jerry. God bless you.
Thank you, Christine. God bless. All right, it is break time. I want to hear from you. You just heard from Christina Curso about some of the practical things that we can do. Where is your heart of compassion this afternoon for you on the East? Your heart of empathy. What would you do? Maybe you've never encountered a homeless youth on the street. How would you react? What would you do? How would you bring Christ to them? These are the questions, the takes we are looking for from you at 1-800-585-9396. Coming right back.
We started our marriage using birth control. I really love my husband, but when I was on the pill, I felt used rather than loved. A friend told me about natural family planning and how it enhanced their overall marital intimacy. So we decided to take the classes. Not only is NFP effective in reading our fertility, it has deepened our mutual respect and love for each other.
To join Human Life International in this discussion, visit truthandcharityforum.org.
The Holy Father's prayer for the month of June is that immigrants and refugees may find welcome and respect in the countries to which they come. The mission intention is that the personal encounter with Jesus may arouse in many young people the desire to offer their own lives in priesthood or consecrated life.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Good with us tomorrow on the program. This is something that you will relate to. I have no doubt about it. When you do God's work, when you're attempting to follow God's will, do something that is good, something that is right, something that's virtuous, something that will bring you out of yourself and that will help other people, what happens so often? Challenges present themselves, obstacles, sometimes fierce trials. It could be the opposition of the devil. It could just be natural factors. There could be a lot of things. But why? Why do we experience challenges when we're doing God's work? That is what we're going to talk about tomorrow on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Today, our topic, Debbie, we're talking about young on the streets, homeless. We had Christina Curso on with us. We're going to have Steve Sobilski a little later in the program. Debbie, really, what this gets down to is we have got to help young boys and girls, teenagers, young adults know who they are, Debbie. We got to help them know they are loved, because the key to any success in life is self-worth, self-dignity. Right. If we get bogged down in this I'm no good attitude, which a lot of our kids do because of the way they've been treated, they virtually have no future.
Right, you spiral downward. That's exactly what happens when you have you have lack of esteem, when you don't feel you're worthy, when you don't feel you're lovable, you spiral downward. It's very hard to go up. It's very hard to achieve. You just kind of go down into the bottom, and that's not good, because once you're down into the deepest pits, it takes a lot to come back up. I mean, so that's why we don't want to allow our youth to fall very down on themselves. And we shared earlier, Jerry, I just want to go back to the statistic in case our listeners just tuned in, that almost 40% of the homeless in the U.S. are under the age of 18. That's why we feel this is a worthy subject to tackle today, and we want to hear your takes on it. So we want to know, what can we do? That is an alarming statistic. So if you feel you can maybe offer some wisdom on this, if you've had encounters like Jerry said, call in at 1-800-585-9396, and we want to welcome all of our listeners outside of North America. Call in as well. It's country code 1-205-271-2985.
And we want to talk about not only how we bring Jesus to them, but how do we see Jesus in them? That, I think, is a key for us. Bringing Christ to them is from us to them, but the gift that we get is seeing Jesus in them. That could be a tremendous gift that we receive as well. All right, 1-800-585-9396. What is your take on this today? Elizabeth is in Salem, Oregon, listening on Mater Dei Radio. Elizabeth, you're up first today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. I just wanted to share that, the problems of today are not original. I was a teenager in the 60s, and my parents had a whole bunch of kids, and they didn't understand that I needed help. I needed attention. I needed their approval. And neither of them ever said, "I'm proud of you." And I ran away from home twice. The first time I went from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara, and the next time I went all the way up to San Francisco. And fortunately, very fortunately for me, on those times I was on the run, I managed to find some good people who were willing to help me. And it's just, it's an awful feeling to think about, where am I going to be going from one day to the next? It was awfully scary.
Yeah.
And
Elizabeth,
it was after the second time I ran away, and of course my parents put me on restriction, and you may not leave the house. And I read a book called Christy that my grandmother had given me, and I realized, wow, at this point, if I'm asking everybody, God and my parents and I was told to go see a therapist, and I'm asking all these people to help, but what am I doing to help myself?
Amen.
And it was about then that I found my journey with the Lord. And it was very profound, and it helped me straighten out my life.
Oh, that's awesome, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I don't mean to jump in, but I have to ask you so many questions because I'm very interested in your story, and I know Jerry is as well. Elizabeth, how old were you when you first ran away?
I was about 15 or 16.
Okay, and did you know where you were going, or did you just head out? Did you have like a relative's house, a friend's house? Did you just,
No,
or did you?
I just headed. And the first time I was walking along one of the major streets, in my town, and some men just said, "Hey, where are you going?" It was like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I don't know where I'm going." And they said, "Well, we're going to Santa Barbara. Would you like to come with us?" And I said, "Sure."
Right.
And when they got there, we parted our ways. And so there I was going to stay. And I stayed there for the first week and then came home. And the second time, I just put my thumb out and ended up in San Francisco.
Wow.
You know,
Well, Elizabeth, let me just ask you this real quick question. The first time you ran away, were you forward to your future, or were you hoping somebody was going to come get you?
I was not even thinking about future. I was thinking I just wanted to get away from my family. I was the oldest of 7, and my parents were not really fit to be parents. You know, we lived a middle-class life, but they were not good parents at all. And the only time they ever got along was when it came to making babies, and weren't not interested at all in the kids who had already grown. And it was a real sad thing. I'd ask them, I'd go to them, say, "I need help," and they just shrug and count it as teenage angst, which it wasn't. And and that was it. You know, my parents just had no idea how to be good parents, and that just amazes me because my dad had 2 brothers who were in the ministry and a sister who met her husband at a seminary. And my mother came from a small family, but it was her mother that took me to church until she moved away. But, you know, that foundation that I got from my grandmother stuck. And the book that
Elizabeth,
I read, Christy, I got from my mother.
I think you've put your finger right on one of the key, probably the key issue right here. And this sounds like it goes back a generation or so, and that is the ability of parents to be parents. And I know from my own experience, my parents couldn't hold the marriage together. They divorced when I was 7. My father, for whatever reason, didn't have the strength, the interior fortitude, the will, whatever, to remain a part of his kids' lives. He was very, very faithful in child support and alimony and all of that, but there was a weakness of character. God rest his soul. He's passed away now, and we were all there when he died. It was a beautiful ending to his life. We all were together and had a chance to make our peace, so to speak. And our mother as well had her own issues too. And so this is the human condition on kind of technicolor display, and it's not unique to our generation. Debbie, we're talking about a lot of these youth today because of situations in the home, but as Elizabeth said, this is not, and there's nothing new under the sun, really.
Right. And here's the thing. For a 15-year-old like Elizabeth to just take to the streets and not knowing, like not having a set place to go, that in and of itself takes a lot of courage. So if teens are going to be able to take off and not know where they're going, that is a huge help. That is a huge wake-up call to all of us adults and aunts and uncles and grandparents, that if a teen is really reaching out and needing help, we've got to figure out ways to give them the resources that they need so that they don't make that jump onto the streets. Wow, this is a much deeper subject with many levels, Jerry, and I really think that we really do have to work hard to stay on top of this subject.
Well, phone lines are full, so we are going to... Elizabeth, thank you for calling from Salem, Oregon. We are going to get to more of your calls when we come back. Kyle is in Buffalo, Alexandra in Olympia, Washington, Joan in Virginia, Timothy in Springfield, Oregon, and a line open for you, 1-800-585-9396. What do we do about homeless?
I put you on in the morning, and it's like having a friend talk to me during the day, and it refreshes my spirit so I can go about the business of doing my vocation of taking care of my family.
If you have a comment about our programming, we'd love to hear from you too. Call 205-795-5773 or send us an email to radio@EWTN.com. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you. Are saying about listening to EWTN radio.
I just wanted to call in. I've been listening for a year now. I converted to Catholicism about a year and a half ago, and this has just been so instrumental. I drive around all day working from my car in sales, and I just and it helps inspire me. Just walk the walk every day. So thank you for that.
Listen daily to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hi, this is John, and I'm lucky to be a Catholic. Some kids always wonder what is right and wrong and are willing to try things they really shouldn't. My family's Catholic. We go to Mass every week. We read the Bible, and it's pretty easy for us to decide what to do. We just ask ourselves, what would Jesus do? My mom and dad love listening to Catholic radio. They say it helps them understand their faith and helps them to make the right choices. Thanks, Catholic Radio.
The EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
By watching EWTN, by listening to EWTN, I'm not Roman Catholic, I'm Protestant, but I have been able to spit out my shame, my guilt. I feel like I'm healed. I'm able to work in a pregnancy center. I pray at our Planned Parenthood. I've visited Hansville. I've been to the memorial for the unborn with my mother. I can't thank the Catholic Church enough.
You can always email us, take two at EWTN.com. Be sure and check out the website, take2show.com. You can leave your comments. Debbie and I post there archives of the radio show, and on Twitter we are at Take Two Show as well. And to be on the program live with us here, it's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, 1-800-585-9396. 585-9396. Those of you on hold, hang on just for 2 to 3 minutes because we got somebody else joining us here who's going to give a wonderful and unique perspective on this topic.
Yes, our next guest is Steve Sibilski, and he's the executive director of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in Phoenix. But Steve also has a wonderful pulse on the rest of the United States and what we can do. I mean, we all love St. Vincent de Paul. I mean, they do great work in our communities, and we're so blessed to have Steve Sibilski with us. How are you doing, Steve? Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, it's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for including me today.
Thank you so much for being with us. I think you're at a family reunion, I believe, and so you made time to realize how important this subject is.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you again.
Thank you. So tell us, Steve, a little bit about what St. Vincent de Paul can offer our youth and what we can do. Give us a snapshot on what's happening, what improvements we've made, and what we can do to help the situation.
Well, it is a very challenging situation, Debbie, as you note. It's challenging not only for the young person or people involved who are homeless or struggling with homelessness or away from their family, but it's so painful for the entire family. I remember Easter. I was at a St. Vincent de Paul dining room on Easter Sunday, and a man who I know from Bible study was there in our dining room that morning. And I went up to him and I said, "John, thanks so much for being with us. I had no idea you were coming down today to help us volunteer." And as I was saying that, I could see the look on his face. There was a look of, I thought I had said something wrong.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, "Steve, I'm looking for my daughter today. And but his daughter was homeless in Arizona, and he hadn't seen her in over a year, and he had no idea where she was, and he thought he would just take a chance that morning and come to our St. Vincent de Paul dining room to see if he could find her. And so my point is, the situation is so painful for the whole network of people who know the individual who's homeless, particularly the family.
Steve, Jerry Escher here. Thanks. I echo Debbie's thanks for joining us. And we don't want to keep you too long, but I want to, we got the remainder of the show. You only have a couple minutes with us. So from your perspective, can you positive spin on this, and through the work of St. Vincent de Paul and other agencies, we talked about Covenant House and so forth, there is hope. Young people are finding their way, maybe not in the numbers we would like, but can you just share maybe a silver lining here for our listeners?
Well, there's always hope. We have our faith, and through prayer, through love, through outreach, through supporting organizations that work with young people, either supporting them with our time, our treasure, and in any way we can. Organizations every day are reuniting young people. At St. Vincent de Paul, every single day our volunteers, our Vincentians, our staff are on the lookout for a young person who is struggling, who is ready to take the next step to going back home, to improving their life. We have a Going Home program in Phoenix where if there's a young person who is in Arizona who would like to go home, we'll confirm with their family and we'll send them home. We will send that person home. We'll give them a bus ticket, a plane ticket, whatever we need to reunite that family. But we're not only willing to do that, it's our privilege to be able to serve our faith, our church, our Christ by doing that, as are many other organizations. And so, you see that young people, particularly if you can get them when they haven't been homeless too long, they still have that hope inside. That desire to want to reunite with family and friends, and so we're always on the lookout for people who are struggling, but who there's that chance to reunite them.
Wow. So, Steve, let me just ask you a quick question. Did that gentleman, John, ever find his daughter? Do you know?
I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you that he did. I haven't seen John in over a month, and he hasn't. And that's why I bring that story up, because it's so painful. But we continue to pray, and
pray.
We're optimistic. And John is, he's not given up. I mean, he believes that he knows they're going to be reunited. So we remain optimistic.
So, Steve, let me.
God's time.
Amen. Yes, absolutely. Steve, let me ask you this question. So, St. Vincent de Paul is all across the United States. So, a person can just walk into a St. Vincent de Paul and say, "Hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to volunteer." Would St. Vincent de Paul put us to work?
You can't. There are St. Vincent de Pauls in thousands of our parishes throughout the country, and so that's right. If you go to your pastor or you just find out who one of the Vincentian volunteers are, they'd love to have. We're always on the lookout for people that want to volunteer. And if there's not a St. Vincent de Paul at your parish, fantastic. Just tell your pastor you'd like to start one, and we have a nationwide network that we can provide support and training for people that would like to start a St. Vincent de Paul chapter or conference in their parish. And it's such a wonderful ministry, and it's wonderful in the sense that people in our community who are less fortunate, but it allows us to live our calling, our faith. And in fact, St. Vincent de Paul was started by a college person almost 200 years ago. Most people don't realize that it was started by a young person. He was challenged. Frederick Ozanam was his name, and he was challenged by his professor in school that you talk a lot about your Catholic faith, but what are you really doing to live it? And Frederick Ozanam took that to heart and realized that the professor was right. And so he went back and 4 other people started delivering food boxes, and it has grown today to 150 countries in the world.
Wow. We didn't know that. Jerry and I were just looking at each other. Great. See, this is great information for all of us to learn and to get involved. Steve, thank you so very much for making time out of your family reunion. God bless you and your family and all the hard work you're doing. Thank you for being the executive director in Phoenix of Society of St. Vincent de Paul. We just love you here, and God bless you, Steve. Keep up the great work.
Well, thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Jerry. It's been my pleasure today.
God bless you, Steve. Thanks for being with us. 1-800-585-9396. Youth, homeless youth, youth on the streets. Are they there because of family situations, abuse in the home, drugs, alcohol involved, human trafficking? We haven't talked about that. Just the dignity that is stripped away from them when they find themselves in situations like this. What is your take on that? We're going to find out right now. Joan in Virginia. Joan, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Joan.
Hello.
Hi.
I think that you've got a really good program going here. One thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of the youth on the street, they themselves are mentally disabled or suffering from mental, maybe even substance abuse, early substance abuse problems. We've had a generation of parents that have been abusing drugs, and if a mother's pregnant and abuses drugs, it can affect her child. And so these children, they are not really, oftentimes they're in a bad home, they're not successful at school, and they may even end up in foster care. And when they age out of the foster care system at the age of 18, there are so few resources and no place for them to go. If they had a home to go to, they wouldn't be in foster care. When they get out of foster care, they're just sort of there with, very little skills and hardly any support. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, Joan, thank you for that take on it. And yes, we agree that when a child is suffering from the ramifications of drug addiction or the results of the parents being on drugs, or even a form of mental illness or emotional illness, all the more reason, Joan, why we truly need organizations in place where these children get some help. And we really have to be careful too. I will tell you right up front that I do kind of assess the situation when I even speak to anybody on the streets, because you don't know where they're at emotionally or mentally, and it could be a dangerous situation. That's why organizations pick up the phone, make a phone call. I have a little card I have a St. Vincent de Paul card in my key where you keep your keys in your car, that I can quickly have numbers that I just to see, hey, how close are you? How close are you to a bus station to get there? And stuff like that. So it's good to have the resources right in your car, I think. So you act if you need to get, help someone. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I think that's a great call, Joan. You make some excellent points that we could spend lots and lots of time talking about, and each one of your points could be a show in and of itself. And Keep listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, because we will be talking about more things down the road. But we're going to move on. Lots and lots of calls here. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Next up, we're going back up to the Pacific Northwest to Springfield, Oregon. And Timothy also listening on Mater Dei Radio. Greetings, Timothy. Welcome to the program.
Hey, well, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Thank you.
I was also wondering about the mental illness issue, even with regards to the youth. I've dealt with a mother of my child that was homeless when I met her, and she also said, I like it like that. I like to be homeless. And subsequently, with regards to her path that she has chosen, she has developed a real mental problem with regards to things coming and getting her in the night, and her involvement with society is all about paranoia. So I was interested in the mental health aspect of homelessness also.
Yeah, Timothy, and I think Joan alluded to this, and we cannot ignore the fact that there is very possibly a lot of mental illness at work in a lot of these situations. We can't paint with a broad brush and say that every young person on the street has some form of mental illness. But Debbie, I'd be curious to know your thoughts on this, and here's my take on this, and that is the streets can be an ugly place, not just on a human level, but there's a lot of stuff going on a spiritual level that we don't see on the streets that can be impacting not only young people, but even those who are not young but live on the streets, because there's drugs involved, there's alcohol, there's immorality, sexual nature. We talked about that. When all of these things are introduced, it could, I guess, become maybe a playground for Satan in a sense. I'm not saying in every situation, but Debbie, there are circumstances where demonic influences can get in there. That can help lead to mental illness. But also there's the mental illness, Debbie, that we talked about that just comes from the stripping away of your self-worth, your self-dignity. Pretty soon, you believe that you are a nobody. You believe that you have no worth, no dignity, no hope, no future. That is a form of mental illness in and of itself, because we don't have that wholeness of knowing who we are before God and have that relationship with Him.
Well, and I agree. And just simply put, that whole world of being homeless is dangerous. There are so many aspects. Like you said, Jerry, the spiritual side coming at you, the emotional, the physical side, just even being out on the streets, how you're just vulnerable beyond belief. It's a danger all around. But, Joan brings up a really good point. I'm sure all of our listeners are really, really great Christians and want to help. I personally, this is my personal opinion, I wouldn't suggest, offering a homeless person, a homeless youth, a ride somewhere or doing anything like that. That's dangerous, because you don't know where that person's mental capability is, or their spiritual or emotional, and so that you could put yourself in danger. But I go back to this. Know your community. Know the resources in your community. I'm sure, unless you live in a very rural part of the United States, that there are probably dozens of pregnancy centers and St. Vincent de Paul's and different parish efforts around the country that you can point these youth and homeless, that you can just even give them that suggestion, hand them a card, or tell them when you stop at a street light, hey, did you know that just down the street there is a place that you could be safe, you could get help, you could get medical assistance or whatever. So know your community. Do you know? I would that we should do a show on that. Do you know what's around you? What's in a 5-mile radius around you?
That would be a great program. And Timothy, thanks for your call from Springfield, Oregon. Great to hear from the Pacific Northwest here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We got a very short break and then other callers that we are going to get to. So if you're on hold, hang on there just for another moment or so. Our phone number, 1-800-585-9366. Tomorrow, why do we experience challenges while we're doing God's work? There are a lot of reasons for that. You probably had your own experience, and we'll hear from you tomorrow on that. 1-800-585-9396. Let us know your take on youth homelessness.
I have a new love and respect for the Catholic Church, and those of you who waver in your faith, don't you dare. You stick to your guns, because that's the one thing you can hold on to. When everything else disappears around you, you say your rosary, you do what you guys do, but hang on to your faith, and don't you dare fall off the path.
Stay on God's path and listen daily to EWTN Radio.
Prayer that I recommend to you is the Holy Rosary. I am carrying an assault weapon and a 50-round clip.
What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic?
Why can't women become priests?
I don't understand why I have to earn salvation.
How is it possible that God created everything?
Why do I need to confess my sins to a priest?
Why is the Catholic Church so unwilling to The Catholic Church is too rich.
Catholics worship Mary and are committed.
As far as I'm concerned, all religions are equal.
You are called to communion with Dr. David Anders. Today, 2 p.m. Eastern, on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
So many good contributions, Jerry and Debbie, today. Thank you for being a part of our radio community, our radio family. Debbie and I really have hearts of desire that go way beyond spending 55 minutes every weekday with you. We want to build a community that is going to share, not just share takes, but try to come to solutions, make a
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, make a difference. So thanks for being a part of that at 1-800-585-9396. We're going to go to Philadelphia next. We got Vincent listening on Holy Spirit Radio. Vincent, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, thank you, Jerry and Debbie. It's good to be with you. I just wanted to say that I've encountered homeless youth on the streets of Philadelphia, on the streets of some of the suburbs as well, and in the moment they were very approachable, and they've approached me at times. I found some sleeping around the facilities where I was a custodian, and they needed food, they needed someone to listen to them, they needed attention, and I was able to provide some meager food and things rather than money, which at times may be a short-term answer. I was able to do something, whereas sometimes with money you don't know what that could be used for. Just to alternatively suggest, well, are you hungry? I can give you, or are you thirsty? I can give you a water bottle. I can give you some bit of a meal or a small meal, or I have extra something. I have an extra something to pass along. But also, I just wanted to stress to everyone, to listeners and to Catholics and Christians and all people of goodwill, that the importance of faith and prayer and virtuous witnessing before the world is crucial for young people, because they take it all in. And I'm speaking from my experience here, coming from a broken home, coming from my own temptations of running away as a youth, or of skipping town or something like that. Because if it weren't for my parents' persistent witness of faith in their own lives, despite their own struggles with themselves and other things, and with my parish community and my school, Kairos retreats, and coming to know the Lord myself in a personal, intimate way, I probably, there's a likely chance that I would not be here. So I just wanted to say every smile, every gesture of love and witness of virtue makes all the difference in the world, and it adds up, even if it's such a small thing as sharing that smile, sharing that time or moment, because I don't think there are, for every youth on the street that is suffering from something that causes them to overcome the angst of being on the street in order to escape from that pain of whatever had originally plagued them. There's 10 other youths that are out there on the verge of something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we can really support and help them by doing the little things with great love, as so many saints have done.
Right, Mother Teresa. I have to jump in and share with you that you well said of what you shared with our listeners and all of us today. And you are being Christ to others, exactly what Christ said for us to be, and to be there when people need us, and to put on Christ and to show them love. And thank you for, I hear such strength in your voice. You sound like an amazing role model, especially for our youth. So thank you for that. I encourage you to keep going with your ministry, because that's a ministry, what you're doing, to minister. Anytime you encounter another soul, it's ministry. And Vincent, your words are just, I took them very much to heart, and I just want to say thank you for making the time today and imparting that great wisdom to all of us. We all grew from your comments.
Well, yeah, your experience with this and your dedication to it, Vincent, is pretty well-rounded, and I know it's not unique among our listeners. We've got great listeners to the program, but Vincent, thanks for all that you do. Just most of all, just for being aware of the situation
Yes.
and being making yourself available to help. I think that is so important. So, Vincent, thanks for sharing that with us here on the program.
Well, and Vincent, if you're still listening and still on, Jerry and I are actually in Philadelphia in September at the World Meeting of Families. If you are at the exhibit, please stop by our booth. It's Third Millennium Media's booth, and we would love to meet you in person. So thank you for calling in. Can we go to Amy?
Yeah, let's Amy in Grand Rapids. Hello, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks for taking my call. You guys are this is an excellent program today, and there's so many wonderful points that people are making when they call in, so that's terrific.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. So what is your take on this very deep subject?
Well, I've worked here in West Michigan with families who are homeless, which includes the youth, and I think is really key. You know, a lot of people think that the chronic homeless are the greatest number of homeless, and it's really family homelessness. It's the largest number. And so educating, I've worked with congregations, Catholic, all across faith levels here in West Michigan, and helping people to put their faith in action. And our Catholic faith talks so much about, social justice and putting that faith into action beyond the immediate needs, which is very important, emergency shelter and things like that. And prayer is definitely the foundation of it. And so we worked with congregations across our county to actually provide means for housing, which is key, because really the lack of affordable housing, which is another justice issue, and helping families, encouraging them, focusing on their strengths, and getting them into housing, which is what's needed, because there's so much money going into emergency shelters, which is good, but we need money into actual housing for people who are homeless. And it's working. You see it working across the country, and just it's amazing to watch, too, in the ecumenical effort of parishes and congregations and even people of other faiths. We have the Hindu community here, helping in this effort. And so it's doing something, and then it's really being Christ and working together with one another that's making a difference.
Amy, this is a fantastic call to bring the show to an end on. And Bob in Oklahoma City, our prayers, we assure you of them. We're just not going to get you time on the if you want to call on another day. In fact, tomorrow I mentioned we're going to talk about why we experience challenges while doing God's work. But on Wednesday, we're going to talk about how we treat others. And well, folks, you just have to tune in for that, because we don't know where a person is, what he or she is going through. Our encounter with them or their encounter with us could make a difference for them, one way or the other, negative or positive. So, Amy, thank you so much. Great phone call, Debbie. My takeaway is that my eyes are open. I mean, there are people who have this issue in their sights and are doing something about it.
Absolutely, and I'm going to get more involved, Jerry. That's my takeaway. I'm getting more involved with my community so we can stop these statistics from rising.
Keep the conversation going. You can do that on our website, take2show.com. You can tweet out to us at Take2Show. And again, tomorrow on the show, why experience challenges while doing God's work? Is it the devil trying to keep it from happening? Just natural things, our own foibles? We're going to find out and talk about that with you and your takes tomorrow. God bless.